Turns out Kirby Air Riders is the holiday game for Switch 2's first holiday, and this is a little more interesting than it seems on the surface. Let's talk about it. What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to Go Play Hero. So we learned in the Kirby Air Riders Direct that Kirby Air Riders is releasing on November 20th, which is kind of crazy. I really didn't peg this to be the holiday game. There are some people that are a little bit concerned about this, and I can kind of see why, at least initially. Kirby has definitely gotten a lot bigger over the years, but this is the first Switch 2 holiday. So general audiences, you know, your aunties, your Grammys, your little Timmies who aren't that tapped in yet, they're gonna look at this and think it's just another cartoony racing game and compare it to Mario Kart World. Now, obviously, cultured individuals such as ourselves know that this game is very, very, very different from Mario Kart World. This is a completely different bag. But if someone isn't that tapped into the internet, didn't watch Papa Sakurai do this amazing direct, and they're just browsing through GameStop or Best Buy or, you know, whatever's left of those places, they may look at this and think that it's just another cartoony racer game. They may not see the bigger nuance of why this really stands out outside of Mario Kart. Then you also have Sonic Racing Crossworlds, which is dropping very soon, and they've got all these really big name crossovers like Minecraft and Pac-Man and SpongeBob for some reason. I'm gonna make a video about that. I love SpongeBob, but I hate this crossover. And even though Kirby has definitely been making more waves in recent years, Sonic is pretty undoubtedly more of a household name than Kirby. Sonic has the movies. Sonic's had several different TV shows at this point. Cameos in Disney movies, right? Like, Sonic is everywhere. Most people know who Sonic is. Maybe not as much as like a Mario or a Pikachu, obviously, but Sonic's pretty up there. And yeah, it is kind of a weird choice. We knew that this was dropping in 2025. I probably would have pegged it for September, maybe October, but obviously we have Pokemon Legends ZA in October, and Pokemon is kind of on its own schedule and goes by its own rules, more or less, so I don't think they could have swapped this for the holiday game. It just seems like, on paper, Mario Kart World could potentially cannibalize Kirby Air Riders, and while that might be the case for the holiday, I think Kirby might be okay, at least in the long term. For starters, like I said, Kirby has become a bigger and bigger name. I don't know if you've noticed, but Kirby just seems to be everywhere lately. I see Kirby in stores like Target all the time. My little cousins know who Kirby is, and they're like have a hyper fixation on him and draw him all the time, which is very cute. And the sales are up, undoubtedly. Star Allies did really well, and then Forgotten Land is actually the highest selling Kirby game, if I'm not mistaken, which is crazy. Then you have like the Kirby Cafe in Japan, which is still open. People just know who Kirby is more than ever. He seems to be a much bigger name in the West than he was even 10-15 years ago. When I was a kid, we just knew him from Smash 64 and Melee and stuff like that, and I had a couple friends who really liked Kirby. We played Crystal Shards and stuff, but he wasn't super well known. I do think Smash Bros helped make Kirby a little more mainstream. I've noticed he is one of the top 3 go-tos for people who don't usually play Smash. So while obviously Kirby Air Riders is never ever going to compete with Mario Kart World, I do think Kirby Air Riders can hold its own. And actually, we've been in a very similar position before. In 2003, Double Dash and the OG Air Ride actually released the same year. But here it was inverted. Air Ride released in the summer, July, and Double Dash released in the winter as the holiday game. Obviously, Mario Kart Double Dash outsold Kirby Air Ride, but Air Ride did pretty well actually, considering nobody bought the GameCube, clocking in at 1.3 million compared to Mario Kart's 6.88 million. It was a little bit different then too though, since GameCube had already been 2 years old by that point. This is the Switch 2's first holiday, so it's hard to imagine, especially when people are already going to be buying the bundles, that general audiences, again, I'm not talking diehards and I'm not talking people who are tapped in, I'm talking just regular mom and pops, are going to go out of their way to buy Kirby Air Riders. Unless, of course, their kids are just obsessed with Kirby, in which case, yeah, that's going to happen. But this actually could be a good thing, at least what it indicates could be a good thing for Kirby. Like I said, it's the holiday game, full stop. This is a week before Black Friday, which is pretty wild. You would think Legends ZA would have been the holiday game, and then Kirby would have been September or October, but then again, maybe not. Obviously, I'm not at the meetings. I missed the Zoom call, but this tells me that Nintendo might be looking at Kirby as one of their big pillars. Outside of Pokemon, Nintendo has what they consider their big four: Mario, Zelda, Animal Crossing, and Splatoon, weirdly enough. But Kirby has always been sort of one tier below, not by much by any means, but kind of high mid-tier IP for Nintendo. Always getting games, very healthy franchise, sells pretty well, gets a ton of little one-off digital downloads, great merchandise seller, but not usually the system seller. But I wonder if Kirby's newfound popularity is causing Nintendo to almost sort of bet on Kirby to really crush it this holiday, even though it's the first holiday of a new console. And actually, this is the first time since Dreamland 3 on the Super Nintendo that a Kirby game is releasing as the holiday game for a home console. I just find it interesting that a Kirby game, let alone a Kirby spin-off game, is holiday game worthy in the eyes of Nintendo, and that makes me happy. I love this boy. Now, this is not totally unprecedented since Xenoblade 2 dropped in 2017 as the quote-unquote holiday game on December 1st, but I think that was more so Nintendo wanting to round out the variety of first-party games that they had for that initial launch year. They wanted a really strong start, and December just made the most sense for Xenoblade 2 for whatever reason, but it really spread the audience out more. Like, the people buying a 15,000-hour JRPG with waifus aren't necessarily the same demographic as the aunties buying little Timmy Mario Odyssey for Christmas, you know what I mean? They wanted to make sure their first year was stacked for all types of audiences. While a similar thing is happening here with Air Riders, and again, obviously you and I know Air Riders is very different from Mario Kart in just about every way, and really it isn't even strictly speaking just a racing game, but that is absolutely how it presents from a branding standpoint. There's a lot more overlap between Mario Kart World and Air Riders compared to, say, a Mario Odyssey and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So that's why I find this placement so fascinating. It'll be interesting to see how this game does long term. My prediction is that Air Riders will sell a nice chunk at first launch, given how long core fans have been waiting, then see a bit of a dip in December. I think people are going to be buying the bigger household names then, but as soon as the console goes on, I do think Air Riders is going to be a pretty big hit. Honestly, I think it might even be somewhat of a sleeper hit in terms of sales. And with all of the bad press going on with Mario Kart World and the bundle with the Switch 2 actually going away at some point, that $70 price tag for the uninitiated might look pretty good next to Mario Kart World's $80, especially since Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is already playable on the Switch 2. Either way, I'm really not too worried about Kirby Air Riders. I think it might struggle a little bit this holiday, just again because it is the first holiday for the Switch 2, so a lot of people are probably going to be making Mario Kart World their first priority, but I do think Kirby Air Riders has a really good chance of bouncing back in the near future. Kirby's a stronger IP than ever, and I really do think Nintendo might be setting Kirby up to be part of the Big Four, which would obviously make it the Big Five. And you know what? I think he deserves it. But what do y'all think? Do you find this release date kind of strange? Do you think Nintendo is setting Kirby up to be an even bigger player and an even more substantial IP moving forward? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want more Kirby and Nintendo talks like this, be sure to subscribe. And that's all I got for this one. Until next time, peace and air grease.